if I were in a situation and I said, right, Fearne, I've got this interview coming up, and I do the interview and I stutter and I get it wrong, or it doesn't go as well as it could do at the minute, how would you respond to me if I said to you, God, I'm really concerned I screwed that up and I feel stupid?
Oh, well, I would 100% comfort you in every way I could and say I'm sure it's going to be fine.
But why would you do that?
Because I believe that it isn't a big deal, and also I want you to feel good. I want you to feel okay.
So what would be the struggle then with translating that to your own internal world?
This is it. We're so bloody horrible to ourselves. Yeah. We're so mean to ourselves. Yeah. That's the big problem, isn't it?
And
I think
that's
self-compassion.
And that is the whole thing with shame, really. It's such a habitual, and that's the really tricky thing about shame. It's quite sneaky, and it's habitual. And that example is an amazing example of what happens with most people every day. You know, this kind of almost internal saboteur jumps out.
Yes.
Because it's all about, perfectionism. What may people think? How am I going to be seen? What does this mean? Now, you and I both know it doesn't mean anything.
No.
We all get it wrong. But Jesus, some of the screw-ups I've made along the way, it happens all of the time. And it really is about how you recognise, okay, this part of me's come out. This part of me, the perfectionist, the saboteur, the judge, the critic, call it whatever you want. But I think for me, when I'm working with people is, I will get them to say, this is a part of you that's come out. It's not you. It's not a definition of you. This is not who you are as a human being. This is not the essence of your humanity. It's a part of your makeup that comes out from time to time. So it's about the recognition, okay, this part of me's come out at the moment. I know exactly why it's come out. It's linked to early shame stuff, or it's probably linked to other parts of my early story. But I've learned, the human brain has learned to respond in a particular way. And your job really is to catch that really quickly. I was saying to someone yesterday about it. I visualize it almost like there's me stuttering now. There you go. Perfect. There we go.
But I think this stuff makes you a human. Like,
there you go.
My granddad,
Can
Phil,
we edit that, please? My perfectionist is coming out.
My granddad, Phil, had a stutter constantly.
Yeah.
And spoke really quickly and had a real sort of Cockney accent. And we all just... It was the most endearing, I loved his stutter. It was my favourite. But I think because there is this overwhelming desire for all of us to be seen as perfect these days, and that there's no room for any flaws, it's so toxic.
Well, here's the thing. I probably got a really brilliant example. About a month ago, I was doing a talk, and it was a big enough gig. There was a lot of people, and it was one of the biggest talks I've done in a while. Like everyone else, I've been off radar. Kind of doing public. Well, I've been doing internet stuff and online, but not in real events. And I had like 3 in 1 week, 3 talks in 1 week. So it was a big week, and they were all pretty big gigs. And in one of them, I had a sort of a sinus infection, and my throat was drying up. And when I was on stage, I could feel the back of my throat beginning to dry up.
Oh, that's the worst.
And it was a combination of my throat was drying up, but I had natural stage. That first 5 minutes, you kind of dry up a bit. And that was okay. I knew what it was. But about 7 minutes into the talk, I literally thought, okay, my mouth is now officially stuck together. Like it was proper. There was no there was no water on stage.
Oh no!
And it was one of these events, when they count you down, it's like 18 minutes and the clock's ticking, and there's cameras and producers and everyone.
This is a bloody nightmare.
So I'm stood there, and I could almost feel myself, by the second disintegrating into, okay, is there another word available?
Oh no!
Is my mouth going to open for the next sentence? And I remember standing there thinking, okay, I'm going to have to think really quickly. So I thought, right, I can continue here and try and work through trying to get words out through this sinus infection, or I can just be brave enough in front of all these people and say, guys, I've really dried up at the minute. I've got a sinus infection. Could someone get me a glass of water? And that's exactly what I did.
Good.
And of course, somebody immediately came along and gave me a glass of water. I was absolutely fine. And then while I was there, I thought, something, I'm going to take this a step further. I'm going to say, and I said to them, this is a brilliant example of what can happen in everyday life. Stuff happens that we're not planning, or the perfect moment doesn't happen. I said, I had an idea today that this was going to go perfectly. The 18 minutes were going to run really smoothly, and I was going to give you guys a brilliant talk today. And I said, 7 minutes in and my mouth stuck together. And I've had to ask for water, and I'm now having to tell you that some of the kind of voices in my own head were saying, oh my God, you idiot. What must I be thinking? So it's a brilliant example. And to answer your question about shame, in that moment, my shame had kind of almost come in, you know, it's kind of like it finds an opportunity. You know, shame will look for vulnerability and it will then slide through. And I talked about that moment. Okay, it finds an opportunity, it finds an inroad. But of course, the way to manage it is you don't let it take control. You shine a light on it. You know, somebody said to me, and I've heard this a number of times, shame can't survive in the light.
In the light.
So shame is often kept in the dark, and that's where it flourishes.
Yeah.
So when shame is brought into the light, you immediately illuminate it and it finds it hard to survive. And often bringing shame into light is doing stuff like, okay, I'm going to allow you to be. I know why you're there. I'm not going to hide you. I'm not going to pretend this isn't happening. Now, of course, in that moment, in that particular talk, no one cared that my throat had dried up. No one cared that it wasn't perfect. And actually, the moment I then said, okay, this is what's going on in my mind, when I finished the talk, the number of people who then come up afterwards and said, I was so glad that you said that.
Yeah.
Because a number of times I do that, or I get it wrong, or I'm presenting, and I think, oh my God, that's terrible. So that was probably the most helpful part of the talk.
Well, this is it. Don't you think we'd all be less exhausted if we just stopped pretending?
I'm getting much better at it.
Because we're all just pretending, aren't we?
Well, that's quite liberating.
We're pretending all the time that we're okay and that we're dealing with life and that we're coping, and we always assume that we're the only ones that are feeling weird. So if I say I have a guest on the podcast and I feel, and I've never met them before, they could be very famous or very well respected. In my head, I'm going, they probably think I'm thick, I'm this, I'm that. But they could be thinking the same. Absolutely. Or Anushka could be thinking the same. My producer, any of us at any one time are probably having the exact same feelings. We get stuck in that.